Hello, friends. If this joke tickled your funny bone, don't forget to hit subscribe. It's an easy way to keep the humor flowing into your feed. Don't miss the last one. That is special joke.
A blonde woman walked into the police station, her face a picture of worry. She approached the desk where a blonde inspector was busy with paperwork. "Excuse me, Inspector," she began, her voice tinged with anxiety. "My husband went out to buy potatoes a week ago and he hasn't come back. I'm really worried." The blonde inspector looked up, her expression softening with concern. "Oh dear, a week is quite a long time. Are you sure he only went out for potatoes?" The woman nodded vigorously. "Yes, that's all. He promised he'd be back soon, but now it's been a whole week. I've tried calling him, but he's not answering. What should I do?" The blonde inspector, trying to offer some advice while maintaining her cheerful demeanor, said, "Well, it's possible he got caught up in something and just lost track of time. Sometimes people get delayed for unexpected reasons. Have you checked if there's any other way he might be in touch, like a friend or a neighbor?" The woman shook her head. "No, I haven't. I've been too worried." The blonde inspector thought for a moment and then suggested, "Why don't you try cooking something else?" One day, a man was discussing relationships with his friends and said, 75% of women never admit to their mistakes. Of the remaining 25%, they admit their mistake, but then, half an hour later, they say, 'Well, it was still your fault.'" One day, a man who we'll call Gordus was with his grandfather, and a mosquito landed on his grandfather's head. Gordus, in an attempt to kill the mosquito, swung a stick at it. Unfortunately, the stick not only hit the mosquito but also struck his grandfather, causing a commotion. Everyone around was shocked and asked, "What on earth have you done?" "You hit your grandfather." Gordus, with a nonchalant shrug, replied, "Well, in the name of rivalry, everything is fair game. One of ours is gone, and one of theirs is gone too." One evening, an old man returned home from work and was in for a surprising shock. As he entered the house, he noticed something unusual. His wife was in the bathroom with the security guard. Bewildered and concerned, he quietly stepped back out of the house without making a sound and headed straight to a friend's place. Once there, he recounted the entire situation to his friend. He said, "I've come to realize that my wife is absolutely terrified of water. I'm not sure what to do about it." His friend, puzzled by the statement, asked, "Terrified of water? Why do you say that?" The old man took a deep breath and explained, "Well, it's quite simple. When I got home today, I saw her in the bathroom with the security guard. A man named Jack had recently lost his wife, and he was struggling to cope with the grief. One day, a neighbor named Linda came over to offer her condolences. She approached Jack with a compassionate tone and said, 'I was a close friend of your wife. Is there any memento or keepsake of hers that I could have?' Jack, with tears in his eyes, looked up and responded, 'I'm not sure if I can help with that. But can I give you a little help?' Wife fainted. The wife turned to her husband one evening and said, 'Every year, the neighbor goes on a 10-day vacation with her husband. They seem to have such a great time together. Why don't we ever go on a trip like that?' Her husband looked up from his newspaper, a bit surprised by the question. 'Well, I've asked her a few times, but she just doesn't agree.' A man boarded an airplane and took his seat. As he settled in, he glanced up and saw the most beautiful woman boarding the plane. He soon realized she was heading straight towards his seat. As fate would have it, she took the seat right beside his. Eager to strike up a conversation, he blurted out, 'Business trip or pleasure?' She turned, smiled, and said, 'Business. I'm going to the annual Nymphomaniacs of America convention in Boston.' He swallowed hard. Here was the most gorgeous woman he had ever seen sitting next to him, and she was going to a meeting of nymphomaniacs. Struggling to maintain his composure, he calmly asked, "What's your business role at this convention?" "Lecturer," she responded. "I use information that I have learned from my personal experiences to debunk some of the popular myths about sexuality." "Really?" he said. "And what kind of myths are there?" "Well," she explained, "one popular myth is that African American men are the most well-endowed of all men, when in fact it is the Native American Indian who is most likely to possess that trait. Another popular myth is that Frenchmen are the best lovers, when actually it is men of Jewish descent who are the best. I have also discovered that the lover with absolutely the best stamina is the Southern redneck." Suddenly, the woman became a little uncomfortable and blushed. "I am sorry," she said. "I shouldn't really be discussing all of this with you. I don't even know your name." "Tonto," the man said. "Tonto Goldstein, but my friends call me Bubba." Men's age, as determined by a trip to Home Depot. You are in the middle of some kind of project around the house, mowing the lawn, putting in a new fence, painting the living room, or whatever. You are hot and sweaty, covered in dirt or paint. You have your old work clothes on. You know the outfit. Shorts with the hole in the crotch, an old t-shirt with a stain from who knows what, and an old pair of tennis shoes. Right in the middle of this great home improvement project, you realize you need to run to Home Depot to get something to help complete the job. Depending on your age, you might do the following. In your 20s, stop what you're doing. Shave, take a shower, blow dry your hair, brush your teeth, floss, and put on clean clothes. Check yourself in the mirror and flex. Add a dab of your favorite cologne because you never know, you just might meet some hot chick while standing in the checkout lane. And you went to school with the pretty girl running the register. In your 30s, stop what you're doing. Put on clean shorts and a shirt. Change shoes. You married the hot chick, so no need for much else. Wash your hands and comb your hair. Check yourself in the mirror. Still got it. Add a shot of your favorite cologne to cover the smell. The cute girl running the register is the kid sister to someone you went to school with. In your 40s, stop what you are doing. Put on a sweatshirt that is long enough to cover the hole in the crotch of your shorts. Put on different shoes and a hat. Wash your hands. Your bottle of Brute cologne is almost empty, so you don't want to waste any of it on a trip to Home Depot. Check yourself in the mirror and do more sucking in than flexing. The spicy young thing running the register is your daughter's age, and you feel weird thinking she is spicy. In your 50s, stop what you are doing. Put a hat on and wipe the dirt off your hands onto your shirt. Change shoes because you don't want to get dog doo-doo in your new sports car. Check yourself in the mirror and you swear not to wear that shirt anymore because it makes you look fat. The cutie running the register smiles when she sees you coming and you think you still have it. Then you remember the hat you have on is from Buddy's Bait and Beer Bar. And it says, "I got worms." In your 60s, stop what you're doing. No need for a hat anymore. Hose the dog doo-doo off your shoes. The mirror was shattered when you were in your 50s. You hope you have underwear on, so nothing hangs out the hole in your pants. The girl running the register may be cute, but you don't have your glasses on, so you are not sure. In your 70s, stop what you are doing. Wait to go to Home Depot until the drugstore has your prescriptions ready too. Don't even notice the dog doo-doo on your shoes. The young thing at the register smiles at you because you remind her of her grandfather. In your 80s, stop what you are doing. Start again. Then stop again. Now you remember you needed to go to Home Depot? Go to Walmart instead and wander around trying to think what it is you are looking for. Fart out loud, and you think someone called out your name? You went to school with the old lady who greeted you at the front door. In your 90s and beyond. What's a Home Depot? Something for my garden? Where am I? Who am I? Why am I reading this? Did I send it? Did you? Who farted? A real woman is a man's best friend. She will never stand him up and never let him down. She will reassure him when he feels insecure and comfort him after a bad day. She will inspire him to do things he never thought he could do, to live without fear and forget regret. She will enable him to express his deepest emotions and give in to his most intimate desires. She will make sure he always feels as though he's the most handsome man in the room and will enable him to be the most confident, sexy, seductive, and invincible. No, wait. Sorry. I'm thinking of Captain Morgan. It's Captain Morgan that does all that shit. Never mind. I hit on this page by folk singer Christine Lavin, showing the results of automatic translation of some of her song titles to and from a foreign language by the Alta Vista automated translation software. For example, the original song title is "Please Don't Make Me Too Happy to French to English. Please Not Return to Me Too Happy to German to English. Please to me, do not go back too lucky to Italian to English. I pray to me not to go behind, too much fortunate to Portuguese to English. I pray me not to go too much behind, fortunate to Spanish to English. I request to Minglish, shot to go too much behind lucky person." The Italian man walking along a New Jersey beach was deep in prayer. All of a sudden he said out loud, "God, grant me one wish." Suddenly the sky clouded above his head, and in a booming voice the god said, "Because you have had the faith to ask, I will grant you one wish." The man said, "Build a bridge to Italy, so I can drive over any time I want to." God said, "Your request is very materialistic. Think of the logistics of that kind of undertaking. The supports required to reach the bottom of the ocean. The concrete and steel it would take. I can do it, but it is hard for me to justify your desire for worldly things. Take a little more time and think of another wish. A wish you think would honor and glorify me." The Italian man thought about it for a long time. Finally he said, "God, I have been married and divorced 4 times. All of my wives said that I am uncaring and insensitive. Here is my wish. I would like to know how to make an Italian woman happy." After a few minutes, God said, "You want 2 lanes or 4 on that bridge?" A man came home from work and found his 3 children outside, still in their pajamas, playing in the mud with empty food boxes and wrappers strewn all around the front yard. The door of his wife's car was open, as was the front door to the house, and there was no sign of the dog. House. Proceeding into the entry, he found an even bigger mess. A lamp had been knocked over, and the throw rug was wadded against one wall. In the front room, the TV was loudly blaring a cartoon channel, and the family room was strewn with toys and various items of clothing. In the kitchen, dishes filled the sink. Breakfast food was spilled on the counter. The fridge door was open wide. Dog food was spilled on the floor. A broken glass lay under the table, and a small pile of sand was spread by the back door. He quickly headed up the stairs, stepping over toys and more piles of clothes, looking for his wife. He was worried she might be ill or that something serious had happened. He was met with a small trickle of water as it made its way out the bathroom door. As he peered inside, he found wet towels, scummy soap, and more toys strewn over the floor. Miles of toilet paper lay in a heap, and toothpaste had been smeared over the mirror and walls. As he rushed to the bedroom, he found his wife still curled up in the bed in her pajamas, reading a novel. She looked up at him, smiled, and asked how his day went. He looked at her bewildered and asked, "What happened here today?" She again smiled and answered, "You know every day when you come home from work and you ask me what in the world I do all day." "Yes," was his incredulous reply. She answered, "Well, today I didn't do it. Can you relate to the woman in this story who does most of the cleaning in your home? A blonde is overweight, so her doctor put her on a diet. I want you to eat regularly for 2 days. he tells her. Then skip a day and repeat the procedure for 2 weeks. The next time I see you, you will have lost at least 5 pounds. When the blonde returns, she's lost nearly 4 stone. Why, that's amazing, the doctor says. Did you follow my instructions? The blonde nods. I'll tell you, though, I thought I was going to drop dead that 3rd day. From hunger, you mean? Asks the doctor. No, replies the blonde. From skipping. The priest was waiting on Saturday afternoon for his usual parade of people coming to confession. In comes a man so drunk he is stumbling down the aisle, bouncing from pew to pew. Finally, he finds the confessional, goes in, and shuts the door. The priest goes by his side and waits. Nothing happens. He clears his throat so the fellow might know he is there and ready. No reaction. Finally, he starts losing his patience and bangs sharply on the wall 3 times. The drunk fellow in the confessional says, "It's no use knocking. Yeah, there's no paper in here either." Joe wakes up with a huge hangover after attending his company's Christmas party. He didn't even remember how he got home from the party. As bad as he was feeling, he wondered if he did something wrong. Joe had to force himself to open his eyes, and the first thing he saw was a couple of aspirins next to a glass of water on the side table, and next to them a single red rose. Joe sits up and sees his clothing in front of him, all clean and pressed. He looks around the room and sees that it is in perfect order, spotlessly clean. So is the rest of the house. He takes the aspirins and cringes when he sees a huge black eye staring back at him in the bathroom mirror. Then he notices a note hanging on the corner of the mirror written in red with little hearts on it and a kiss mark from his wife in lipstick. "Honey, breakfast is on the stove. I left early to get groceries to make you your favorite dinner tonight. I love you, darling." "Love, Jillian." He stumbles to the kitchen. And sure enough, there is hot breakfast, steaming hot coffee, and the morning newspaper. His son is also at the table eating. Joe asks, "Son, what happened last night?" "Well, you came home after 3 a.m. drunk and out of your mind. You fell over the coffee table and broke it, then you puked in the hallway and got that black eye when you ran into the door." Confused, he asked his son, "So why is everything in such perfect order and so clean?" "I have a rose, and breakfast is on the table waiting for me." His son replies, "Oh, that!" "Mom dragged you to the bedroom, and when she tried to take your pants off, you screamed, 'Leave me alone, bitch, I'm married.' Broken coffee table, $239.99. Hot breakfast, $4.20. 2 aspirins, 38 cents. Saying the right thing at the right time. Priceless. A young man and a woman were sitting next to each other on a crowded bus. After a while, the man leaned over and said to the woman, "Hey, your apples are crushing me over here." The woman looked at him, annoyed, and replied, "Well, they're my apples." "Why does it bother you?" The young man, with a smirk, responded, "The apples might be yours, but the juice is coming out of me." One night, Mrs. McMillan answers the door to see her husband's best friend, Patty, standing on the doorstep. "Hello, Patty, but where is my husband?" "He went with you to the beer factory." Patty shook his head. "Ah, Mrs. McMillan, there was a terrible accident at the beer factory. Your husband fell into a vat of Guinness stout and drowned." Mrs. McMillan starts crying. "Oh, don't tell me that. Did he at least go quickly?" Patty shakes his head. "Not really. He's got out 3 times to pee." There was an Englishman, a Scotsman, and an Irishman working on the top of a cliff. The Englishman said, "If I have cheese in my sandwich tomorrow, I'll jump off this cliff." The Scotsman said, "If I have jam in my sandwich tomorrow, I'll jump off the cliff." The Irishman said, "If I have ham tomorrow, I'll jump off the cliff." The next day, the Englishman had cheese, the Irishman had ham, and the Scotsman had jam. So they all jumped. At the funerals, the wives of the Scotsman and Englishman said, "Why didn't they just tell us they didn't like their sandwiches?" The Irish lady said, "I don't know why my husband jumped off the cliff." He made his own sandwiches. Father, I need to do work for school. Can I ask you a question? Of course, my son. What is the question? What is political, Father? Well, politics involves people, government, economic power, the working class, and the future of the country. I don't understand. Can you explain? Well, I will use our home as an example. Who brings money home is me, so I'm the economic power. Your mother manages and spends money. Then she is the government. As you take care of her needs, you are the people. Your brother is the future of the country. The Zafina, his nanny, is the working class. Got it, son? More or less. I will think better, Father. That night, awakened by the cries of his little brother, the boy went to see what was wrong. Found that his brother had soiled his diaper and was all smudged. He went to his parents' room and saw that his mother was in a very deep sleep. He went to his nanny's room, and through the keyhole he could see his father fucking her. As the two didn't perceive the beats the boy gave up from beating in the door, he returned to his room and slept. The next morning at breakfast, he said to his father, Dad, now I think I understand what politics is. Great son, so explain to me with your words. Good father, I think is this. While the economic power fucks the working class, the government is in a deep sleep. The people are totally ignored, and the future of the country is in the shit. A little kid gets on a city bus, sits right behind the driver, and starts talking loudly. If my dad was a bull and my mom a cow, I'd be a little bull. The driver gets annoyed as the kids continue to yammer on. If my dad was a rooster and my mom a hen, I would be a little chick. The kid goes on and on with all the animals he knows, when finally the bus driver yells, What if your dad was a bum and your mom was a drunk? The kid smiles and says, I'd be a bus driver. Different degrees of blondness. First degree. A married couple were asleep when the phone rang at 2 a.m. The wife, undoubtedly blonde, picked up the phone, listened a moment, and said, How should I know? That's 200 miles from here, and hung up. The husband said, Who was that? The wife said, I don't know. Some woman wanting to know if the coast is clear. Second degree. Two blondes are walking down the street. One notices a compact on the sidewalk and leans down to pick it up. She opens it, looks in the mirror, and says, this person looks familiar. The second blonde says, Here, let me see. So the first blonde hands her the compact. The second one looks in the mirror and says, You dummy, it's me. Third degree. A blonde suspects her boyfriend of cheating on her, so she goes out and buys a gun. She goes to his apartment unexpectedly, and when she opens the door, she finds him in the arms of a redhead. Well, the blonde is really angry. She opens her purse to take out the gun, and as she does so, she is overcome with grief. She takes the gun and puts it to her head. The boyfriend yells, No, honey, don't do it! The blonde replies, Shut up, you're next. Fourth degree. A blonde was bragging about her knowledge of state capitals. She proudly says, Go ahead, ask me. I know all of them. A friend says, Okay, what's the capital of Wisconsin? The blonde replies, Oh, that's easy. AW. Fifth degree. What did the blonde ask her doctor when he told her she was pregnant? Is it mine? The sixth degree. Bambi, a blonde in her 4th year as a UCLA freshman, sat in her U.S. government class. The professor asked Bambi if she knew what Roe versus Wade was about. Bambi pondered the question, then finally said that was the decision George Washington had to make before he crossed the Delaware. 7th degree. Returning home from work, a blonde was shocked to find her house ransacked and burglarized. She telephoned the police at once, and the police dispatcher broadcast the call on the radio, and a K-9 unit patrolling nearby was the first to respond. As the K-9 officer approached the house with his dog on a leash, the blonde ran out on the porch, shuddered at the sight of the cop and his dog, then sat down on the steps. Putting her face in her hands, she moaned, "I come home to find all my possessions stolen." I call the police for help, and what do? They send me a blind policeman. On a bitterly cold winter morning, a husband and wife were listening to the radio during breakfast. They heard the announcer say, "We are going to have 8 to 10 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the even-numbered side of the street so the snowplows can get through." So the good wife went out and moved her car. A week later, while they were eating breakfast again, the radio announcer said, "We are expecting 10 to 12 inches of snow today. You must park your car on the odd-numbered side of the street so the snowplows can get through." The good wife went out and moved her car again. The next week, they are again having breakfast when the radio announcer says, "We are expecting 12 to 14 inches of snow today. You must park." Then the electric power went out. The good wife was very upset, and with a worried look on her face, she said, "I don't know what to do. Which side of the street do I need to park on so the snowplows can get through?" Then, with the love and understanding in his voice that all men who are married to blondes exhibit, the husband replied, "Why don't you just leave the damn car in the garage this time?" This is for all the beer drinkers out there. Where are you, beer drinker? Sometimes when I reflect on all the beer I drink, I feel ashamed. Then I look into the glass and think about the workers in the brewery and all of their hopes and dreams. If I didn't drink this beer, they might be out of work and their dreams would be shattered. I think, it is better to drink this beer and let their dreams come true than be selfish and worry about my liver. I feel sorry for people who don't drink. When they wake up in the morning, that's as good as they're going to feel all day. Lyndon B. Johnson. When I read about the evils of drinking, I gave up reading. Paul Horning, 24 hours in a day, 24 beers in a case. Coincidence? I think not. H.L. Mencken. When we drink, we get drunk. When we get drunk, we fall asleep. When we fall asleep, we commit no sin. When we commit no sin, we go to heaven. So, let's all get drunk and go to heaven. George Bernard Shaw. Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Benjamin Franklin. Without question, the greatest invention in the history of mankind is beer. Oh, I grant you that the wheel was also a fine invention, but the wheel does not go nearly as well with pizza. One night at Cheers, Cliff Clavin said to his buddy Norm Peterson, "Well, you see, Norm, it's like this. A herd of buffalo can only move as fast as the slowest buffalo, and when the herd is hunted, it is the slowest and weakest ones at the back that are killed first. This natural selection is good for the herd as a whole because the general speed and health of the whole group keep improving by the regular killing of the weakest members. In much the same way, the human brain can only operate as fast as the slowest brain cells. Excessive intake of alcohol, as we know, kills brain cells, but naturally, it attacks the slowest and weakest brain cells first. In this way, regular consumption of beer eliminates the weaker brain cells, making the brain a faster and more efficient machine. That's why you always feel smarter after a few beers." The teenager lost a contact lens while playing basketball in his driveway. After a fruitless search, he told his mother the lens was nowhere to be found. Undaunted, she went outside and, in a few minutes, returned with the lens in her hand. "How did you manage to find it, Mom?" the teenager asked. "We weren't looking for the same thing," she replied. "You were looking for a small piece of plastic. I was looking for $150. Arriving late, a certain professor arrived late for a lecture to find a most uncomplimentary drawing of himself on the blackboard. Fuming, he asked the class joker in the front row, "Who pray, was responsible for this atrocity? The joker won tremendous prestige with his reply. I really don't know, but I strongly suspect it's parents. A beautiful woman goes to her dentist for the first time in years. After poking around in her mouth for a while, he says, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, but it looks like you need to have a complete root canal." She winces and says, "Ugh, I think I'd rather have another baby." He says, "Well, okay, but I'm going to have to adjust the chair." An American soldier serving in World War II had just returned from several weeks of intense action on the German front lines. He had finally been granted R&R and was on a train bound for London. The train was very crowded, so the soldier walked the length of the train looking for an empty seat. The only unoccupied seat was directly adjacent to a well-dressed, middle-aged lady and was being used by her little dog. The war-weary soldier asked, "Please, ma'am, may I sit in that seat?" The Englishwoman looked down her nose at the soldier, sniffed, and said, "You Americans, you are such a rude class of people. Can't you see my little Fifi is using that seat?" The soldier walked away, determined to find a place to rest, but after another trip down to the end of the train, found himself again facing the woman with the dog. Again he asked, "Please, lady, may I sit there? I'm very tired." The Englishwoman wrinkled her nose and snorted, "You Americans! Not only are you rude, you are also arrogant." Imagine, the soldier didn't say anything else. He leaned over, picked up the little dog, tossed it out the window of the train, and sat down in the empty seat. The woman shrieked and demanded that someone defend her and chastise the soldier. An English gentleman sitting across the aisle spoke up, "You know, sir, you Americans do seem to have a penchant for doing the wrong thing. You eat holding the fork in the wrong hand. You drive your autos on the wrong side of the road. And now, sir, you've thrown the wrong beach out of the window."
If you're still here, I'm thrilled you enjoyed the joke. Subscribing is a simple way to stay connected. Join our community and make me a happy friend.